Hey everybody, I'm here in Mexico City, Mexico City. But I wanted to share what God's been ministering to me about just a bit. It's been such a powerful weekend in the Lord, in the presence of God. He is just awesome. One of my prayers before I got here was, Lord, like keep me broken, you know. I this Some people were asking. I got this idea from Jen Johnson. It absorbs the tears. The other day, my bro was teasing me about it. He was like, "It was so funny. You were like crying, and then I see this weird sponge you pull out, and you're like dabbing your eyes." And I was, because I cry a lot. So this absorbs the tears. Just to let you know. So I have it prepared for me just in case, because I cry a lot. It was this time has been so powerful, and God has just been moving immensely in my life, and so yeah, all of those things. And one of the areas that one of the my prayers, like I was sharing with you, is that I said to the Lord, I just want your presence, and I just want to be in the midst, and I want to follow wherever you go, Holy Spirit, whatever you want from me, just take me there. Just take me there. And there we go. Here we go again. For me, it's not hard for me, well, now, to cry, because but that's what I wanted. You know, I wanted to be in that place of brokenness always. And and when I say brokenness, I mean like a broken and contrite heart. I mean, the brokenness of understanding who the Lord is, the brokenness of knowing His call for your life, that kind of brokenness, and not any other kind, because any other kind of brokenness is not of God. Brokenness for God, the best thing, the most beautiful thing, the best thing for your life. That was my prayer, and then I got here in Mexico City, because a lot of people don't know this, but it was here it was here that my world was changed. It was here. And not to say that like certain places and all of that are significant, but for me, Mexico, Mexico City specifically, Pastor Gloria's couch in her office changed my world. And it's not like the couch changed my world, because that's furniture. It was the people, and it was the leadership, but it was the presence of God that changed my world, that unraveled me. And so being back here, I knew, not that like, oh, I'm trying to be like over spiritual, like when I sit on that couch, I'm going to be just because. No, because the couch is not anything, and the room is not anything. A building is just a building. But location, because this is where I allowed my surrender to fully take place. And it came along with a brokenness, because it had to be done. I had to break off things that just needed to be removed. So here, when I got here, right when I just like my prayer, I was just broken. For me, I need to be in a place of sensitivity, sensitive to people, sensitive just to everyone, sensitive to those that God has placed in my life, thankful heart for God, and not searching for answers, just like the chase of the Holy Spirit, the chase after Him, that adventure. God reminded me this morning, so like two things. He reminded me of a vision that He gave me a few months ago, and it was of a ship, like a vessel, a huge vessel. I don't know if you've ever seen like a big boat or a cruise line ship, But he reminded me that I saw a huge cruise line ship. And when I saw this huge cruise line ship, I was like, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. It's huge, it's majestic, and all of this stuff is just massive. But then he showed me that it was just sitting in the middle of the ocean, and it wasn't moving. The ship wasn't moving. It couldn't move. And I was like, it's so beautiful, but it's like in the middle of the ocean. It's not going anywhere. And ships are meant to move, if you know. I mean, they're like meant to go forward. They're meant to travel. But the ship that he showed me, it wasn't moving. So I was like, why isn't it moving, Lord? And he said, all for all. And I was like, what? Okay. And he's like, all of you for all of me. A full exchange. And this is not me knocking down who you are, like your identity, and like, oh, now you don't know who you are because it's just all God. No. God has given us gifts. He's given us talents. He's given us, that's separate. But what I mean is a constant leaning on God is a constant leaning on the Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. We need all three. You can't have one without the other. So he showed me this ship, and he said all for all. He said that ship won't move unless there's a captain on there, unless there's a crew on there, unless there is people to man the ship. It's so big, there needs to be people to man the ship. But look how helpless it is. It's huge and helpless when there's no captain, when there's no one leading it. And he said that's how we can be. That's how you can be sometimes. You have all these desires and these passions, and it's huge, but it's helpless without me. Sometimes, yeah, you can make it pretty far without God, and he takes you some places and you go there, but not as far as you should be. It has to be all for all. Your surrender has to go all for all. Everything of you for all of him. And you be whoever he needs you to be. You know? That's how it has to be. And so he showed me that. Because when we're anchored in God as like a vessel, like a ship, we get anchored in him. Anchored in his word, anchored in the foundation of Christ, the cornerstone. We get anchored in him. Then we're able to go where he says go because we're anchored in him. We have a strong foundation. We're anchored in him. We're anchored in our discipleship. We're anchored in being able to hear his voice and being able to be obedient to what he has to say. We're anchored. We stay anchored. We stay rooted. And so when we stay rooted and we stay anchored, God shows us that that's all we need. That's all we need. Now you can go on an adventure with the Holy Spirit because you're anchored in me. But without my breath breathing on you, you will go nowhere. That's what he told me. And I want to share that with you because if you say you love Jesus and you're searching for your calling and you're searching to hear his voice, and maybe you have heard his voice, I'm not knocking that, but you're searching. You're just searching, right? You're just searching for Jesus, but yet you got so many different ideas of how you think that it's supposed to be. But bottom line, you're supposed to be anchored. It has to be all of him. It has to be all of him. So as I was reading Ruth, the Book of Ruth, and there's only four chapters in the whole Book of Ruth. But one thing that I love about Ruth is that her relationship with Naomi. I mean, if you know the Bible and you know the story, women have used this story many times, and I love it because the way she explains it. Ruth is like, wherever you go, I will go. Your God will be my God. Your people will be my people. Please don't leave me. That's the cling that we need to have. That's the cling that we need to have with God. That's the cling. The all for all. Like a total exchange of everything that we think that we're used to, that we think that we know, that we think that has to be a total exchange. And when we get that total exchange, there's a blessing on the other side of our obedience. there's a blessing on the other side of our obedience. And so there was a blessing on the other side of Ruth's obedience, but that's not why she did it. She just did it because she loved Naomi. She loved her. She didn't know what she was going to expect when she went back with Naomi. They were both in a very sad place. She lost her husband, Naomi lost her sons. So that paints a pretty intense picture for you right there. We just need to, in our vessel, we are the vessel, we are that big ship. We need to allow the breath of God to move us with love, with compassion, with edification for others. That all comes when you're chasing God. And if you're chasing God and you're being rough, God will get you. I mean, I'm not worried about that stuff. He gets it. He gets you. If you're really chasing God and you think that you're not going to get corrected, guess again. Because yeah, you'll see. But, yeah. So, a phrase that I heard in spontaneous worship this morning is both hands on deck. We're all in. Be all in. It's funny, like I was journaling about the vision that God gave me, and then I'm listening to this worship, and I didn't know what it was going to say, but all of a sudden, this guy starts singing, both hands on deck, we're all in. And I guess it was a night service. It was a pre-recorded night service of a spontaneous worship. And he said, both hands on deck, we're all in. We're all in tonight. And I just wrote, both hands on deck, we're all in. Because all in, all the time. All for all. All for all. So, I asked the question, why do people like to sail? Like, what's their pursuit? Why do they want to sail? Why do people choose that life on the boat? Because they like that adventure. And it's not without risk. To live on the boat, to even be like a salesman or just any kind, it's a life full of risk, because the water is ever moving. It's ever changing. It's peaceful and it's rough. It's beautiful and it's scary. You know, when you sit in a chair, it's just, the chair is not going to move unless it's like super bad. But when you sit on a boat, you're like leaning forward because you don't know how the boat's going to move. Because boats are like unsettling. They're constantly moving. That's why some people can't ride boats, because they get dizzy because it's constant motion. That's our life with God. It has to be constantly moving in Him. Not to say that we don't have those moments of being quiet and listening to Him and being still. Being still, though, doesn't mean stopping. Being still means to continue to pursue, continue to follow, continue to listen, continue to hear, continue to be corrected. Everything. So I wanted to share that with you guys. I hope it made sense. I love you all, and you're awesome people.